Welcome back. Anti-apartheid veteran Ahmed Kathrada would have turned 90 years old today. Uncle Cathy, as he was fondly known, was born in 1929 and spent most of his life fighting oppression. And he was a part of the group of Rivonia Trialists, and he was imprisoned for 26 years. And after his release into the new democratic era, Uncle Cathy served as a Parliamentary Councillor for former President Nelson Mandela. Uncle Cathy died in 2017 at the age of 87. So we're here to discuss his legacy with Mandla Nkomfe, who's the Deputy Chairperson of the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation Board, and Zohra Kathrada-Areington, Uncle Cathy's niece and former personal assistant. Thanks to both of you for coming through. And, you know, the memories come flooding back with Uncle Cathy. Zohra,
absolutely.
Been thinking about you because, you know, you were there, you were always there. And he was just the selfless giant of a man, and selfless in every sense because he gave so freely of himself. How have you been since his passing?
Sakina, we still cry very often. We miss his presence, his humor. He had an absolutely wonderful sense of humor, and his wisdom, of course, and like you said, his selflessness, his giving nature. And we just miss him a lot. And today, it's a very emotional day for the family. For me, I spent 6.5 years with him as his PA. And yeah, so it's a very emotional day for us, Sakina.
And we're going to go through this day with you, you know, because
Thank you.
and celebrate this great man with you as you remember him. And what many people, Mandla, I think you would actually feel cheated if you knew who Uncle Cathy really was, because he was the guy who you could call and take out to lunch. Zohra can attest to this. He would go. You would simply ask Uncle Cathy, can we do this? And he would be there. This was the type of leadership that Ahmed Kathrada displayed. Nobody was too big or too small for him. Yeah. And this foundation was, of course, established to memorialize, immortalize that particular image of the man. So how do you feel about the work that you've been doing thus far, given what Uncle Cathy actually stood for?
Let me say that this is a big day for the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation. A lot has been done since the foundation was set up. I do want to say that Uncle Cathy represented a generation of leaders, men and women, who were committed to deepening non-racialism in South Africa, securing us democracy, and more importantly, and even today, the idea of social justice for people across the board. So a lot has happened, and in terms of anti-racism workshops, and also being part of the public discourse in South Africa. And we're proud of his contribution, and we'll continue to memorialize his legacy.
And looking at, you know, again, the man who he was, and remembering one of his very last public acts was, again, penning a letter to the then president of the country, asking him to step aside for reasons which he outlined in that letter that we are all too familiar with. And then we've seen the foundation getting involved very much so in the contemporary politics of the day. Just in terms of taking that legacy forward and moving ahead, what is the foundation basically setting its targets on with regard to where South Africa is now? Mandla, let me start with you there.
Okay. I think from where we are, our main focus is the defense of democracy, is promotion of non-racialism, and also promotion of the democratic values that are enshrined in the Constitution. Hence, we are focusing on protecting and advancing constitutionalism, as it were. So that's the main driving force that we are propounding. Uncle Cathy was an engaged citizen, a citizen who would not sit idle whilst people do not have food, do not have home, etc. And that's where the idea of social justice comes in. An important dimension of Uncle Cathy was his focus and love for young people. So me and you, our parties, it's receding. And for our democracy, it means we have to focus on young people. And this is where the foundation has been focusing much of its work in promoting democratic values, non-racialism, particularly amongst young people and also children, as you know. She will tell
Absolutely.
you the extent to
Totally, Zohra,
Totally.
you know, as we wrap this, because we
Yes.
know Uncle Cathy's fondness for children, and he tells the story of, you know, when he was released from Robben Island, and the first time, one of the things that he really yearned for was the presence and just to be in touch with children.
Absolutely. Just to touch and feel a child for the first time was something. He was first of course, very nervous because he's never done that. And to hold a baby was something it was too much for him. He was very emotional. And his love for children was something that he used to sit on the balcony, Sakina, and watch the little children go to school, and the transport used to pick them up. And some of them knew he was sitting there, and they would wave at him, you know. And that was his joy every morning. And he did that up until the time, you know, till he lost. He loved children. Even with the family children, you know. They would sit around him. He would tell the story when he just came out of jail. The children were around him looking at him as if he was somebody out of space, you know. Just stare at him and touch him because they've never seen this person, and suddenly he's there. Yeah, so he leaves a wonderful legacy behind, wonderful memories behind that the family will treasure, and the foundation. And yeah, and we must him, but we'll carry his legacy for as long as we can.
Wow.
Thank you.
Zohra, we are holding you and carrying you in our hearts and our prayers today on a very difficult day. And Mandla, thank you so much for helping us remember. And of course, memory fades, so it's so important for us to keep memory alive. Thank you so much to both of you for coming through this morning. Mandla Nkomfe, Deputy Chairperson at the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation Board, and Zohra Kathrada-Areington, Uncle Cathy's niece and former personal assistant, talking about his legacy on what would have been his 90th birthday today. Let's take a break.